The search continues tonight for a man wanted for the murders of his mother and grandmother in South Etobicoke. The latest on this case coming up.
And more reaction from Frontline workers today who are pushing back against the Ford government's plan to shutter some safe consumption sites. We're also going to hear from Premier Doug Ford.
And charges have been dropped against 2 Toronto police officers accused of failing to properly investigate the 2017 disappearance of Tess Richey. Her mother found her body in a stairwell days later.
Plus, professional dog walkers, they're not happy with the new bylaw going into effect today at a park in the Avenue and Davenport area.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Saab.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thank you for joining us. Police are urging a 33-year-old man wanted in the murders of his grandmother and mother to turn himself in tonight.
And for the latest on the search for Joseph Ayala, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst Steve Ron, who's near the scene in South Etobicoke. Steve, you are also speaking to neighbors again today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, neighbors here, Bakari and Lena, are grieving over the loss of what some have said were just 2 wonderful people who lived in this community for 3 decades. The 33-year-old suspect that is the son of one of the deceased I've also been told, rather, that he too lived in this neighborhood for his entire life. So the police released a new photo of the suspect, and they're asking people to have a look at that photo, and they say that if you see this person, they warn everyone not to approach because he is considered dangerous. So they say to keep a safe distance away and call 911, and then just be the best witness you can possibly be by providing a description, a location, mannerisms perhaps, and maybe even a bag or knapsack that he may or may not have on him. All that information will be very, very helpful to the first responders as they rush to the scene where somebody may report him being last. I did speak with Toronto Police earlier on today and got their reaction to this latest investigation. And I spoke with a neighbor who tells me that she's been here for 40 years and that the grandmother who was murdered was in fact her babysitter back in the day. So she's got some very warm thoughts, heartfelt thoughts. And here's more from the officer and from the neighbor. Let's listen.
If you recognize him or you know where he is, if you also are aware where he has been, any tip is appreciated. And we do want to thank the public as well. We've had numerous tips that have come forward, and we're investigating all of them.
She was my babysitter for 3 years, and I was just very upset when I heard that news.
And how was she as a person that you knew her, as a little one and then as a grown adult?
She was very kind to me, you know. When I was a little kid, she used to, even if coming home from school, she used to make me snacks. I used to go to her. I used to go to this house. She used to come to my house. That's how it was in this neighborhood. We're all very close.
Now, although the issue of mental health did not come up in any of the police briefings, I can tell you guys that I've spoke with neighbors on this street on Friday when this happened and throughout the day today, and they all told me that they have all witnessed this 33-year-old experience some sort of mental health episode on the sidewalks here. They never felt any danger, but they just got used to it happening, and they would just go inside when it happened. So this may be one of those cases where it is a mental health issue involving family members, but again, that comes from neighbors. It does not come from the police. So back to you guys.
So tragic. Steve Ryan live in South Etobicoke tonight as this investigation and search continues. Steve, thanks so much. Meantime, a man wanted for murder in connection with a downtown shooting has been arrested in England.
24-year-old Adrian Gordon Jr. was arrested in a town northwest of London last Monday and is awaiting extradition to Toronto. He was wanted in connection with the shooting in late May at Jarvis and Isabella. The victim, identified as 30-year-old Jesse Tubbs, was found with gunshot wounds and rushed to hospital. That's where he died days later. And Gordon is facing a charge of first-degree murder.
Well, 2 police officers tasked with searching for Tess Richey in 2017 have had professional misconduct charges against them dropped tonight.
Constables Alan McCullough and Michael Jones, they were told to search the church and Dundonald area November 26, 2017 for Richey, who had been reported missing the day before. Richey's body was found 3 days later in the same area by her mother and a friend. The officers have been charged under the Police Services Act with neglect of duty and insubordination amid allegations that they did not search the area thoroughly enough. The charges were dropped at a hearing today, with prosecutors noting that the case had been resolved via a restorative approach. Caitlin Schlatter was convicted of Richey's murder in 2020.
On one end, I think part of the family is happy that this has been resolved and that the officers have accepted responsibility to an extent. On the other hand, the view is restorative justice, it can't restore anything. And one of the officers didn't even show up today. So in terms of that accountability, there are real mixed emotions coming out of this. But I can tell you, at least it's another part of this, this just been going on for so long for the family, another part that's done, but they're going to continue living with this for the rest of their lives in any event.
And let's get to what the family is saying this evening. A statement from Tess Richey's sister reads, "We are happy with today's results, where the officers are accepting responsibility for their shortcomings in the search for Tess. Through alternative measures instead of a tribunal, the charges can be withdrawn, and we avoid further legal proceedings, which provides us with some relief. We are happy to know their experience in this case will provide nuance and understanding in the training of officers in future missing person cases."
One person has been seriously injured. This happened in a shooting in Rexdale.
It happened just before 1 a.m. near Finch and Highway 27. It appears gunfire from a vehicle struck someone inside a white Range Rover. Paramedics say the victim's injuries may be life-threatening. Footage from the scene shows several bullet holes on the side of the Range Rover. There's no description yet of the suspects or the suspect vehicle.
And the Ford government is facing mounting criticism for closing some safe consumption sites, but the premier continues to stand by the decision.
CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with the latest from Moss Park. Melissa.
Hi, Lena. Yeah, so one of these supervised consumption sites holding an open house today, just steps away from where I'm standing right now on Sherbourne, just south of Queen East. The idea here is to show the real people working inside these centers and the real people who access these services. I was speaking with the director of mental health and addiction and drug use, and she's telling me that people who use these services, their lives are being saved, that the workers who are here on the front line, that they've brought people back from the dead. Have a listen.
But most people that come here every single day, and the amount of intensive care that happens in this space is very, very hard to describe.
What do you mean by intensive care?
So, what I mean is that people have different needs, and the people that come here are folks that don't meet criteria or they face barriers to accessing other forms of health care. So sometimes we could be working with someone among staff for 8 hours in a day, right? So it's it's almost like we don't do residential treatment, but we're certainly day treatment for a lot of people.
So the reason why we're hearing from harm reduction advocates like Sarah Gregg right there is because they're responding to new rules that are coming from the provincial government, that any of these safe consumption sites that are within 200 meters of a school or a daycare, they will be forced to close by March 31st of next year. And that's not all. Any locations that exist right now, they can't move to other locations. And that's an issue for the Moss Park Center here because their lease is set to expire in November, so they won't be able to offer these services anywhere else under these new rules. All in all, in Toronto at the moment, 5 locations are set to close by that March deadline. We are hearing from Premier Doug Ford today, digging down, saying that this is going to be taking effect, and here's why. Have a listen.
We're going to be there to support people. That's our goal. I'm not a fan of the federal government's safe supply. I compare it to giving people poker chips, dropping them off in front of the casino and saying go to town, or give them all free pass to LCBO all day, all night. That doesn't work, folks. I know. I've dealt with it within our family. I've dealt with it within our community. That does not work. What works is rehab, detox beds, supporting these people with good paying jobs. Housing is absolutely critical.
I was talking to a gentleman who uses the services here. He was telling me that he feels vilified by this move that's coming from the provincial government. Again, that's all taking an effect by March 31st of next year. We're going to be talking more to people who are servicing this area here and also using it coming up. Back to you.
Okay, looking forward to that reaction. Melissa Duggan reporting live. Thanks so much, Melissa. It is now 5:10, 28 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
A group of commercial dog walkers, they've launched a petition asking the city to reverse a new municipal policy that bans them from working at a downtown dog park. That story's up next.
A group of commercial dog walkers have launched a petition asking the city to reverse a new municipal policy that bans them from working at a downtown dog park.
Okay, so this is where we turn to CP24's Andrew Brennan, who's live at Ramsden Park in the Avenue and Davenport area. So, Andrew, you weren't able to find any of the dog walkers in person when you were there earlier. So have you been able to talk to other people?
Yeah, I've spoken to dog owners. I've spoken to a veterinarian who was walking his dog Ella here a few minutes ago. And I've also spoken to people that live right around the area. And there are, the one thing I will say from the people we have spoken to is that no one says that there should be an outright ban, at least according to, again, the people that we've spoken to, even those that do live in the area. What they're saying that they would like instead is some form of compromise. That's actually one thing that the petition from the commercial dog owners was looking for, too. For starters, potentially having this still be open and usable for commercial dog walkers between the hours of, say, 11 a.m., 3 p.m. During the time people are at work and usually hiring dog walkers to take their dogs for walks, do their business, get a bit of exercise. And that veterinarian I mentioned before that works at the Davenport Road Animal Hospital just down the street says that, as a veterinarian, he believes that it's not only very important for dogs to get that exercise, but also to have dog walkers available so it can be done during times where the pets owners aren't able to do so. So with that all in mind, I did hear a couple of minutes ago from a man named Tom. He lives, he says, 2 minutes down the street. And one thing that there is to be, for a point of distinction, he says, is there's a difference between having a dog owner or a dog walker that has a couple of dogs keeping attentive eyes on them and some of the others that he says he sees coming here regularly. Take a listen.
Some dog walkers might bring like 30 dogs and they have like maybe enough people there so there's 6 dogs per person, but then they're not paying attention to the dogs. It gets overcrowded, then dogs are jumping over the fence. One time I told one dog walker like their dog jumped the small dog fence and then they went to jump the other fence, then it was running across the traffic, almost causing an accident. So I feel like the commercial dog walkers, 6 dogs is the limit, but even that I feel is too much.
Now, on the flip side of things, we have heard from people that have their dogs here every day that say that a lot of the dog walkers are actually, for instance, picking up the fallen business of the dog owners that are the dogs that are in the park with their owners not paying attention. So as a counterpoint there, we've heard that from more than one person, and it all remains to be seen if this temporary ban will continue beyond the reevaluation of off-leash parks that's happening right now that the city is in the process of doing. Bakari, Lena, I'll send it back to you both.
We'll have to see where this goes. Andrew, thanks so much. Well, trains are running again today after employees at Canada's 2 main railways were ordered back to work. Canadian National Railway and Canadian Pacific Kansas City locked out 9,000 workers last Thursday, shutting down freight traffic across the country and some commuter lines in Toronto, Montreal, as well as Vancouver. The Canada Industrial Relations Board ordered both companies and the Teamsters Union back to work and ordered their contract disputes to binding arbitration. Now, GO train service on the Milton line and at Hamilton Station has resumed with the work stoppage by the country's 2 major railways coming to an end. Metrolink says there may be some adjustments to schedules throughout the day as the agency restores normal service.
I was happy because I'm a creature of habit, so I like my routine, although I was a little confused because their website didn't really indicate any major changes to the schedule, but I showed up here to find that everything's a little bit off kilter this morning, which is a bit inconvenient, but we'll survive.
I take usually the train every day to go to work. I'm not working from home. So as I arrived on my on time regular train, I was told that it wasn't working. So I had to take TTC, so I was delayed for work. Both days, practically.
How much longer did it take you?
Around 40 minutes or to 45 minutes, which usually is 18 minutes in this train.
The lockout impacted 30,000 commuters in this city, in Montreal and Vancouver, who use trains running on CPKC-owned lines.
Commute times are back to pre-pandemic highs. This is according to new data from Statistics Canada. So as of May of this year, the average commute time to work was just over 26 minutes, on par with the previous high from May of 2016. Those who commute using a car were spending about 26 and a half minutes in their vehicles, while it took 43 minutes for those using public transit to get to work. And commuters who chose to or were able to either walk or cycle spent about 14 and a half minutes getting to their jobs. Toronto is experiencing the longest average commute times at more than 33 minutes. And service on a portion of Line 1 is going to end early for 4 days, starting tonight. Speaking of commutes, the TTC says that service will end nightly at 11:59 between Eglinton and College from now until Thursday due to planned track work. Shuttle buses will run. Regular service resumes the next morning at 6.
Okay, so that's a little look at transit. 518, 28 degrees. Let's get a check on the road, see what that drive looks like. Adjua and CIA Bois keeping a close eye.
I am, and just watch the problem clear, so a little bit of good news. You need some of that on these very busy roads. We had issues on the southbound lanes of the Don Valley Parkway for the last hour or so. It was just south of Don Mills. Crews were dealing with a collision that did have the right lane as well as the shoulder blocked. Everything cleared, so the drive, at least on the southbound side, looking pretty good. Northbound, not the case. Very busy still approaching Don Mills. Opens up past the 401. Still jammed solid on the Gardner into and out of the downtown core. That sun also blinding the drive, so drive with your shades. And if your travels take you on to the QEW Niagara bound, finally, long-standing problems through here, Ontario was a stall, had the left lane and shoulder blocked. Problems cleared. On city streets, just a heads up, ongoing collision blocking lanes on York Mills and Don Mills. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
And the federal conciliation process between Air Canada and the union representing its pilots comes to an end today.
There will now be a 21-day cooling off period, after which the 5,400 pilots, they'll be in a legal strike position starting September 17th. Last week, the pilots gave the Airline Pilots Association a strike mandate in the event it was unable to negotiate a deal with the air carrier. Pilots have been negotiating with Air Canada since June of last year, with wages and scheduling among the sticking points.
It's 5:19, 28 degrees, feeling more like 33 outside. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announces new restrictions to limit low-wage temporary foreign workers. We'll tell you all about that next. Welcome back. Liberal cabinet ministers, they are in Halifax for a 3-day retreat.
The annual end-of-summer gathering sets the agenda for the upcoming fall sitting of Parliament. This year's retreat comes as the party looks to reset. This is after falling behind the Conservatives in the polls and losing a Toronto stronghold in the by-election. While inflation and interest rates are coming down and wages are going up, high housing and food costs are still key concerns for the Liberals. And Canada is moving to match the U.S. with new tariffs on electric vehicles made in China. The move is being made in a bid to keep the cars from getting a significant foothold in the North American market. Chinese brands are not a major player in Canada's EV market right now, but Chinese EV giant BYD has indicated it intends to try and enter the Canadian market as early as next year.
Today, we're taking yet another step to ensure that Canada is the country of choice to make the things that'll drive the new 21st century green economy. We're listening to automakers, we're listening to workers. Shortly, we will be introducing a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles and a 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum.
And BNN Bloomberg's Andrew Bell joined us with more on the move.
For Canadian consumers, it means that we're going to have to pay an awful lot more for a Chinese electric car than we would have basically double what we would have had to pay. And hardly a surprise, though, Canada is copying America and slapping huge import duties on Chinese electric vehicles. our two nations have an integrated, highly entangled auto industry. We export about 1.5 million autos to America every year. So it's hardly surprising that Ottawa felt it had to go down this route.
Prime Minister Trudeau is also urging businesses to hire Canadian workers as his government announces new restrictions to limit low-wage temporary foreign workers. The government has been criticized for an influx of temporary foreign workers and is now bringing back tighter pre-pandemic rules. So starting late next month, it'll refuse such applications in regions where the unemployment rate is 6% or higher.
And the Prime Minister spoke about changes being made to the immigration policy today.
We need Canadian businesses to invest in training and technology and not increasing their reliance on low-cost foreign labor. It's not fair to Canadians struggling to find a good job, and it's not fair to those temporary foreign workers, some of whom are being mistreated and exploited. So I asked my minister to work on this over the summer, and we are taking action. We are tightening the rules and restricting eligibility to reduce the number of low-wage temporary foreign workers in Canada, with exceptions in certain industries like healthcare, construction, and food security.
And over the course of the retreat, ministers will get an update on the federal child care program, discuss Canada-U.S. relations and interests ahead of the presidential election.
It's 5:25, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, former Blue Jay Danny Jansen made Major League Baseball history today. We'll explain coming up.
Former Blue Jays catcher Danny Jansen made history today in a game against his old club. So Jansen became the first player ever in Major League Baseball to play for both teams in the same game. So this happened when the Jays and Red Sox resumed a matchup that had been suspended by rain in June. Well, since then, Jansen was traded to Boston. And because Jansen was up to bat when the June game was delayed, Dalton Varsho pinch hit for him while Jansen was behind the plate catching for the Red Sox. The Jays won the suspended game 4-1 and will play the Red Sox again tonight in the first game of a new series.
It is now 5:28, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Charges have been dropped against two Toronto police officers accused of failing to properly investigate the 2017 disappearance of Tess Richey. Charges have been dropped against two Toronto police officers who were accused of misconduct. This is related to the search for Tess Richey in 2017.
Yeah, we're going to have more on that coming up tonight. And the search continues for a man who's accused of killing his mother and grandmother in South Etobicoke. Tonight, we're going to tell you more about that investigation.
And also, when it comes to those safe consumption sites, we have more reaction from Frontline workers today who are pushing back against the Ford government's plan to close some of those consumption sites. We're also going to hear from Premier Doug Ford.
Plus, professional dog walkers are not happy with the new bylaw going into effect at a park in the Avenue and Davenport area. We'll have reaction.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. Two police officers tasked with searching for Tess Richey in 2017. They've had professional misconduct charges against them dropped.
Constables Alan McCullough and Michael Jones were told to search the church in Dundonald area on November 26, 2017 for Richey, who had been reported missing the day before. Richey's body was found 3 days later in the same area by her mother and a friend. The officers had been charged under the Police Services Act with neglect of duty and insubordination amid allegations that they did not search the area thoroughly enough. Now, the charges, they were dropped at a hearing today, with prosecutors noting the case had been resolved via a restorative approach. Kaylin Schlatter was convicted of Richey's murder in 2020.
And a statement from Tess Richey's sister reads, quote, "We're happy with today's results, where the officers are accepting responsibility for their shortcomings in the search for Tess. Through alternative measures instead of a tribunal, the charges can be withdrawn, and we avoid further legal proceedings, which provides us with some relief. We're happy to know their experience in this case will provide nuance and understanding in the training of officers in future missing person cases.
Christine has had a extremely tough time with this. Anytime that any event comes up involving the tragic death of her daughter, it's just a reminder, of the day that she found her. And that's what I think we have to remind ourselves, that when this was reported to the Toronto police, Tess was found 40 meters away from where she was last seen. And it was Christine that found her dead body. And so you can only imagine how horrific that is for Christine when she recalls that day. And so today has been extremely difficult for her.
And police are urging a 33-year-old man wanted in the murders of his mother and grandmother to turn himself in.
Okay, right now, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. This is near the scene in South Etobicoke. Steve, you're in the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that you are familiar with. Not only were you there Friday, but you've been there today.
Yeah, and this is where I grew up, so I am very familiar with this location here in South Etobicoke. So we were here Friday when police announced that a grandmother and her daughter, grandmother was in her 80s, daughter was in her 60s, were both murdered. The suspect is the 60-year-old woman's 33-year-old son. The police have been looking for him ever since. Now, many people that I've spoke with here in this neighborhood today and on Friday have said to me that they have expected or suspected in the past that the 33-year-old suspect had been suffering from mental health issues. And they say that because not only was it something that went on throughout the neighborhood with regards to rumors over the past couple of years, but they've actually seen it. People have seen him rather on the sidewalks, on the roads, over a period of time, acting in manners that caused concern for these people that were watching him, but not for their safety, they said. He was just acting out of sorts, and that caused many of the neighbors to go inside. So when they heard about this homicide and that this 33-year-old man was charged with their murders, they were very concerned for sure, and they are hoping that the police can find this man and bring him into custody and put him before the courts to be charged formally. I spoke with the Toronto Police earlier on, got reaction from them, and I spoke with a neighbor who's lived here 40 years herself. She went to grade school with this suspect, and I asked her if she had the opportunity to speak with him, what would she say? Or speak to him, what would she say? Here's more from the police and from this neighbor.
This is an active and ongoing investigation. We are still looking for him, and we would appreciate that if anybody knows where he is to please contact police. Do not approach him, but keep a safe distance and contact police, and we will be able to get him then and arrest him and charge him accordingly.
Please turn yourself in if, it's better. Your neighbors are really worried about their neighborhood, and we feel unsafe right now. We're not knowing what's going to happen, what could or may happen.
So the neighborhood grieves the loss of two of their neighbors, and they're also concerned for this person's safety and for their safety as a whole, and they are looking forward to the announcement when police are able to locate this person, arrest them, and put them before the courts. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
What a difficult thing for that neighborhood to go through. Steve Ryan reporting live from Etobicoke tonight. Thank you so much for this, Steve. Meantime, a man wanted for murder in connection with a downtown shooting has now been arrested in England.
24-year-old Adrian Gordon Jr. was arrested in a town northwest of London last Monday and is awaiting extradition to Toronto. He was wanted in connection with the shooting in late May at Jarvis and Isabella. The victim, identified as 30-year-old Jesse Tubbs, was found. He'd been shot and rushed to hospital. That's where he died days later. Gordon's facing a charge of first-degree murder.
One person has been seriously injured in a shooting in Rexdale. It happened just before 1 a.m. near Finch and Highway 27. It appears gunfire from a vehicle struck someone inside a white Range Rover. Paramedics say the victim's injuries may be life-threatening. Footage from the scene shows several bullet holes on the side of the Range Rover. There is no description yet of the suspects or the suspect vehicle.
And Toronto police are trying to identify a suspect in an alleged sexual assault. Investigators have released these photos of the man that they're looking for. The suspect allegedly sexually assaulted someone in a parking lot in the Dufferin and Lawrence area last Wednesday. So police say that the suspect then waited outside a nearby business where the victim went to get help. Well, he eventually left the area on foot, and the suspect is described as being 6 feet tall with a medium build and a black beard. Anyone with information is asked to call police or Crime Stoppers.
And Toronto police are asking for help finding a senior who's been missing for 3 days tonight. This is 84-year-old Melvin on your screen. He was last seen Friday morning in the area of Arletta and Shepherd Avenues. He was wearing a blue baseball cap, blue pants, sandals, carrying a gray bag. Melvin is described as 5'9". He weighs about 140 pounds. He has short black and gray hair. If you have any information on his whereabouts, you are asked to come forward.
Well, the Florida governor is facing mounting criticism for closing some safe consumption sites, but the premier continues to stand behind his decision.
CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with the latest from Moss Park. What are you hearing there, Melissa?
Yeah, so Lena, the idea from the province, they announced last week that these supervised consumption sites that are within 200 meters of schools and of childcare centers, they will be closed. And that's going to affect 5 sites in all so far. But then when other sites might come into question is when they might want to move. Like, for instance, the Moss Park Center that I was just visiting today. Its lease is up in November, but because of these new rules with the province, it won't be able to open up at a different location. Now, this site opened their doors to us today, giving us an idea of the services that they offer, showing us the area where people are able to get those safe injections under the supervision of health professionals. They're able to respond in real time if someone is experiencing an overdose, and they're saying services like this save lives. One person who works for this group of services is someone who collects the data, how many people they're able to help, what sort of services they've been able to offer. Here's more of what Seth Pinch had to tell me.
We see the success in our service users who are then connected to primary care, health care, and who are able to access programming and social supports, housing. We celebrate a lot of birthdays here. So as much as it's important to have those stats and data, it's also really important to see the effects in community and see the progress and that evidence at work.
We have been talking with people who use these services as well. That includes a gentleman, Vincent, who spoke with me for quite some time, telling me about the help he's seen other people, and including himself, received at these sites. Here's more of his story.
This place is the HMS Victory. This is the flagship, in my opinion, of safe sites in Toronto, and I've used a number of them, and I've tried to help out in a number of them. In the downtown core, I live downtown.
There is reaction coming from Premier Doug Ford today to some of this pushback that we are hearing from harm reduction experts. Just one of his comments today saying that he doesn't agree with these supervised consumption sites, saying that it's like giving someone gambling chips and dropping them off in front of a casino. Obviously, people here disagree with that, saying that they save lives. As for these new rules, they come into effect by March 31st of next year, and expect more noise to be made on the side of these harm reduction officers over the next coming days. Saturday, Lena and Bakari, is when Overdose Awareness Day is recognized. We're expecting to hear more by then. Back to you.
CP24's Melissa Duggan. Thank you. And with that, it's 5:41, 28 degrees. This is Live at 5.
A group of commercial dog walkers, they've launched a petition asking the city to reverse a new municipal policy that bans them from working at a downtown dog park. What's this all about? We'll explain next. Welcome back. A group of commercial dog walkers, they've launched a petition asking the city to reverse a new municipal policy that bans them from working at a downtown dog park.
Okay, for this story, we go live to CP24's Andrew Brennan, who's at Ramsden Park in the Avenue and Davenport area. Andrew.
Yeah, Bakari, Lena, in the last few minutes, we've been speaking with people, in some cases like Marlene. She says she's been here since the mid-'80s, and there's been a dog park here that in some form since then, and she's really unsure as to why now this is becoming a problem, and also questioning some of the, at least according to the local councillor, Diane Sachs, in a statement saying that residents nearby, seemingly like Marlene, have complained about noise, about lack thereof of parking on their street because of commercial dog walkers coming in, and also also inattentive dog walkers that are not picking up after the animals in their care. Well, she says that she's not seen any of that, and she's not the only one, by the way, who has said that. Dr. Isaiah, for instance, a veterinarian who works down the street at the Davenport Road Animal Hospital, we spoke to him and his animal Ella a couple of minutes ago, and he says he more often sees dog walkers picking up after inattentive dog owners who are paying attention, not all the time, and trying to fill in the gaps there. And with all that in mind, the original complaints, according to Councillor Sachs, were, again, noise pollution because of the amount of animals that are coming here at specific times of day, but parking problems, and then also about potentially inattentive dog walkers. Well, one of the dog walkers behind the petition says they're trying to find a common ground here, but that in their mind, the city's barking up the wrong tree. Take a listen.
We started the petition after, I think, a really knee-jerk reaction from City Council, where very quickly they banned us from the dog park we've been using for like 25 years. The petition is, we're trying to make a compromise in the petition. So they're trying to ban us completely from the park, and we're trying to tell them that we're only here really from 10 to 3 Monday to Friday, like most days, and that we would like to continue using the park from 10 to 3. There are no other dog parks around here for us to use.
Now, just a heads up right now, this ban is not in effect. These signs, like the one right behind me, I'm just going to get out of the way quick second. As it says right there, it's as of September 19th that the commercial dog walkers are no longer allowed to use this off-leash area as a result, it says, of a city council decision. That was done in June, by the way. As of right now, though, you can still bring your pet here, no problem. That's something that Councillor Sachs tried to make a point of saying. If you own the dog, you can use this off-leash area, no problem. And for commercial dog walkers, that doesn't come into effect until September, and it's temporary as the city is looking at what to do with all of its off-leash areas. That research is being done, reporting coming back to council potentially in the new year, and then we will see. Back to you both.
Barking up the wrong tree. I see what you did there. Andrew Brennan reporting live tonight. Thanks so much for this. And of course, we'll see where this story goes. Well, a widespread data breach at Park and Fly, that's impacting about 1 million customers.
At a statement to CTV News Toronto, Park and Fly confirmed that a third party had breached its network sometime between July 11th and 13th. It said that the company's platforms were fully restored within 5 days. The leaked information includes the names, email, and mailing addresses, as well as Aeroplan and CAA numbers. A customer's credit card and payment information, along with passwords, were not stored on the compromised server and were therefore not impacted.
547, 28 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And speaking of 5, we're talking about commute times. They are back to pre-pandemic levels all across the country. This is according to new data from Statistics Canada. We're going to take a closer look at Toronto's commute times coming up.
Well, the Monday afternoon drive continues to be a slow go. At least it's problem-free on the 401 West, but very busy as you make your way from the Don Valley Parkway still, and it continues slow as you head all the way out towards about Kipling. On the flip side, eastbound, also looking at delays from Renforth opens up past the Leslie stretch. DVP improving, busiest from north of Don Mills now up to the 401, and still heaviest on the westbound lanes of the Gardner now. Just as you make your way from Jarvis, everything clears up past the construction zone out to past Dufferin. On city streets, just a heads up, we have a brand new collision blocking lanes on St. Clair and Caledonia. I'll send it back to you both.
Adjoa, thanks so much for this. Well, speaking of the commute home, commute times, they're back to pre-pandemic highs, according to new data from Stats Canada.
So as of May of this year, the average commute time to work was just over 26 minutes, on par with the previous high from May of 2016. Those who commute using a car were spending about 26 and a half minutes in their vehicle, while it took 43 minutes for those using public transit to get to work. And commuters who choose to or were able to either walk or cycle spend about 14 and a half minutes getting to their jobs. And Toronto is experiencing the longest average commute times at more than 33 minutes.
And of course, none of this is a surprise to drivers in the GTA. For a closer look, we're joined live tonight by Jennifer Keesmaat, founder, president, and CEO of Collective Marquee, and former chief planner for the city of Toronto. It's good to see you, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us. You know, it was only a matter of time. Commute times, they're back to pre-pandemic levels. I want to start by getting your reaction specifically to Toronto's numbers.
Well, look, there's a really important nuance in the data, which is that we're back to pre-pandemic levels on the one hand, but our transit isn't back to the pre-pandemic levels. So basically what we see here is that more people are commuting, people are getting back in their cars, but not as many people are getting on transit. And this is one of the reasons why you see the chaos on city streets, among other things, like all of the construction that's going on. But a city of our scale that is growing significantly, we've been trying over the course of the past decade to add more people without adding more cars. But what's happened since the pandemic, people left transit for a whole variety of reasons. Service levels went down. It became more difficult to get where you were going on time. There were concerns about safety. There were concerns about cleanliness. And people just haven't gotten back on transit on the way that we're going to need them to if our city is going to function.
Okay, but I mean, looking at this report, it takes longer to take transit than it does to actually drive in your own personal vehicle. So we have to talk about that, but also, how does Toronto compare with other big cities of similar size?
Well, right now, we've got a pretty big problem on our hands because you're absolutely right. Our commute times are very long, and they're very long compared to other large cities as well. It used to be that we used to say, heaven forbid ever being like New York or being like LA. Well, guess what? We're sort of like New York and we're sort of like LA. We've got those kinds of commute times happening in the city of Toronto. One of the challenges with fixing a problem like this is it really does come back to land use planning. And we are in some ways a victim of the fact that we are a part of a much, much larger region. And even if every single person in the city of Toronto got on transit, walked to work, or took a bike, and if the region continues to grow and to grow in a car-oriented fashion, you're still going to have chaos in the city streets of Toronto. So a big part of fixing this problem is really about regional transit. And to your point, it needs to be excellent transit. It needs to be everywhere to everywhere. People have to be able to get where they're going. But it also needs to be operating at a frequency. Like just having a line on a map isn't enough. That train has to be running every 2 to 3 minutes to ensure that it truly is a convenient choice and a convenient option for commuters. So we need to halt the suburban sprawl. It's a bad idea. More highways just means more traffic into the core of the city. We need to really invest in public transit. Investing in regional transit is going to be critical. And then we need to be prioritizing on our streets, walking and cycling and bus rapid transit on our streets. Cars should be a visitor and a guest in our city. That's the only way that we're going to start to shift. A city like New York City is going through this shift right now. And New York City's actually seen its commute times go down over the course of the past 5 years, and in part by focusing on transit, pedestrians, and bus rapid transit. So making it more convenient to take transit is a really critical part of solving this problem.
Yeah, and for that to happen, our transit has to be, as you noted, reliable and efficient. We've got a long way to go, but this has been a good conversation. Jennifer Keys-Matt, thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
It's now 5:55, 28 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, Toronto Metropolitan University is holding orientation for 11,000 new students who will be attending classes this fall. Toronto Metropolitan University is welcoming students who will be attending classes this fall.
Yeah, orientation week is underway at TMU for 11,000 new students. That's my alma mater. The school opened the Gould Street Fair this morning. It gives students the chance to check out the main campus hub, meet with their peers, and enjoy giveaways from sponsors. The university says it'll be holding more than 100 events in person and online as part of the orientation experience.
I feel like there's just a lot of promotion going on, a lot of activities, a lot of students you can meet, a lot of networking and connections you can make, especially with new friends. So I even came here with my friends looking for new friends, new connections to make, maybe build a community around myself to help better engage myself with the TMU activities going on.
Oh, to be that young again.
And new students at TMU also attempted to break the record for most high fives given to a sports mascot in 3 minutes. Today, TMU says the previous record was 381 high fives. Unfortunately, the school says they fell just a bit short at 381.
There's always next year. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Thanks so much for watching.
CTV News at 6 is next.